work quietly and follow along. At any point, click the pause button to catch up or take a break. Alrighty artists, let's do some really interesting weaving that we can incorporate into a piece of artwork and picture. Like the weaving is actually purposeful and actually adds texture to that piece as well. So what we're going to do is you need a piece of heavy cardstock paper, and I made this awesome stencil so we can all get a really great elephant shape. I'm going to save some paper and I'm going to put it off to a corner and trace around it with my pencil. Alrighty, once you have it traced, I know it's probably a little hard to see in the video, you can cut out your elephant. Alright, you can remove your scraps. Now here is our elephant. What you can do is you have a choice as the artist. You can turn your elephant so it's facing the right, or you can turn it so it's facing the left. I'm going to turn mine so it's facing the right. What you're going to need next is a black Sharpie marker. And what we're going to do is you're going to trace around the outside of the elephant shape, leaving maybe a little space on the edge. What we're doing is we're creating some stylistic elements of art using line, but we're also outlining the shape of the elephant so it really stands out. Okay, it will look something just like that. Now we're with that same black Sharpie marker, we're going to start to add some characteristics of our elephant. We're going to begin with the back leg and work our way to the front of the elephant. So I need you to find this leg. We're going to make it look like it is closer to us and that this leg is farther back using simple line. Right at this point of the two legs, we're going to put our marker down and drag towards the tail right here where it connects to the body. See with a line how we made a tail? Pretty cool. Let's do that with the other leg. We're going to come straight down from this point and connect it down to this point. Just like so. Perfect. All right, we're going to bring out some more of that legs of the elephant to make him look like they're a little longer and to start giving his skin some texture as well. Going back to the back leg, I want you to go up towards underneath the belly and towards the back and just draw a line upward a little more. That'll make his leg appear like it's longer. We're gonna do the same with the front leg, just like that. Now, let's do the elephant's ears. That's a major feature of the elephant. So here is the crown of its head, and then this little hump right here, that's actually the ear. The ear sits farther back and they're really big. So here's the head, here's the back, and in the middle of that, you're gonna draw a big kind of curved line down and connect it to this bottom point area right here. I'm just going to fix my line. There we go. Now to complete the ear, we're gonna take that. It has a little point, see where we cut out from our shape? I'm not looking always at the Sharpie line, but the outside has extreme point. We are going to then bring that straight up and leave a little space to show that this ear is connected through that part of the elephant's skin. Can add a couple lines for wrinkles. And we're also gonna add the tusks right next to the ear, but leave a little space. We're gonna go straight, kind of at an angle to the right, and then at an angle up the left. And then you can add a little hook for the tusk. For the eye, I like to put the eye kind of above where the tusk is coming out of the skin. And I just draw a basic circle, and then you can add just some black in there. And we can add other lines going across to show some wrinkles, and maybe a little bit at the bottom as well. Let's give our elephant some toes. For the toes, I do 1 hump, 2 hump, 3 hump at the bottom on each of his feet. There we go. And last but not least, he needs a couple more wrinkles to really show that he has a lot of skin. So I like to put one maybe here, kind of around his back area. And the biggest thing about elephants is they have their skin stretches on their knee just like we do. So I like to draw a curve up on his knee, which is about halfway on his leg, a curve going down like so, and then a line across just to really show that extra knee. Maybe a few across his feet too. There we go. And last, since we're making more circus themed elephants often have like a little cap on their head or something kind of decorative. So see the crown of the head? We're gonna do a arc from the ear down, and then from that point up and over the eye towards the trunk. Very cool. I just like to add a little V for decoration. Now that we have completed our black Sharpie marker, you can use any colors you'd like and decorate the elephant. I like to add color to the top of a little decorative cap. And I also like to add what we call a tassel. And to make a tassel, it's like a little circle. And then we draw some fringes coming down off of that. Here we go, just kind of tying all my colors together. What you can do if you want to is you can add a little black to the tassel. There we go. And anywhere else you like to add color to the elephant is totally fine. I'm going to be adding dark blue. I'm just going to color his tusk that just for fun to really bring out that element of the elephant. And I'm going to paint his toes purple just for fun. You can color these whatever color you want. I'm kind of sticking with a color scheme here, okay, students? So I kind of got purples, teals, and blues with a little bit of pink. There we go. Our elephant is almost ready. Optional, if you just want to color the little end of his trunk for fun. That's a good one. Before we take our cardboard piece and start gluing on the back. Now, the cardboard piece is really, really sturdy compared to our cardstock paper. This will enforce that the loom does not bend. So you need to flip over your elephant, and you'll see he has two straight areas underneath his legs or underneath his belly by his legs and across his back. The cardboard piece should fit nice and snug between his legs and across his back. We're going to use wet glue. I'm applying glue from a glue bottle. You can use a glue stick, but just be sure to apply it pretty heavily. We want to ensure that this sticks. Here we go. We're going to flip it over and align it back in that place that I just talked about, in between his legs and align with his back. I'm going to flip over the elephant so you can see what that would look like. There you go. It's kind of tucked away. You can slide around your cardboard piece. If your cardboard piece happens to be sticking up, it's a little longer. Once it dries, you can just cut it off. Not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll be back for creating the loom and to start to weave. Okay, here we are, artists. Our cardboard is pasted on to the back of our elephant. If it's too big, you can always just cut it off so it is in line with the elephant's back. Here we go. What we need to do next is I'm going to be using a black Sharpie marker so you can see things nice and clear. We're going to be creating what I call the little tinks and slits for our loom, but they just need to be in a certain place. Use pencils so you can always erase and adjust. We're going to begin by drawing a line on both bottom and top. That is about as long as your pinky if you turn it just like this. Right beside them, you're going to do 2 more. They're even spaced across and they need to be in line with the lines across for them. Okay, so they should all be equal in length. Adjust. And we're going to do 1 more between the last line and the edge of the cardboard. There you go, just like so. Next, what you're going to do is with a scissors, you're going to then cut little slits. So cut both the cardstock paper and the cardboard on those lines. This is where your yarn will go through. Awesome. It might be a little hard. Now, let's flip over our elephant and we can see right where our yarn is going to be going across to create a loom. Now, what we're going to need is a piece of yarn, or a strand, I should really call it, because this strand, I like to do a couple arms lengths, maybe 2. It doesn't need to be super long, but you don't want it super short either. Okay? So, first what we need to do is we need to put a knot in the yarn. I like to do it like this. So all my yarn is coming from my right. I go up and around with it and then lay the end across the previous yarn. So it's making like a little fish. See how this end strand is going across that over the top? Now the end of my yarn is gonna go underneath and through the loop, just like that. When you get about a pretzel, you're going to then push it and kind of shuffle it so it's towards the end of the yarn more. That way the knot's way over here and you're not wasting yarn. So we're going to do that again. Up and around, down, under, and through the loop. And pull tight to a pretzel and just kind of shift it over. This time we want it really close by or on the previous knot. We're gonna do this a total of 3 times. Okay, so 1 more, up and around, end of the yarn going under and through the loop, and then pulling it so all the knots are lined up in one place. We're now going to begin by adding the yarn to form a loom on our elephant. So flip over your elephant so you can see the cardboard. On the back, we are going to take the knot and lay it on the cardboard. And then I'm going to then pinch the cardboard like with a hand like this, thumb, and on your paper. Pull the yarn down through the bottom right slot. And then pull it until the yarn is stopped by the knot and it's securely in that little slit. Perfect. Flip over your elephant. We are then going to create our loom. So when we do this, you don't want to pull the yarn super tight, but you also don't want your yarn super loose. So I'm going to show you some tricks how to do this. First, pull your yarn up, and then so it kind of goes into that slot, and now pull it down so it's really locked in. Take like some crab fingers and pinch and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle the yarn so it's not super loose and it's not super tight. You don't want it too tight. That's going to be harder for you to weave later. And if it's too loose, oof, it's going to be hard just as well. Grab your strand of yarn, and now this time we're going to pull up into the split of the cardboard and the cardstock. Pull across and down through the slit. Here we go. Now remember, crab hands, pinch and wiggle, 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 just enough. We're going to repeat this same process all across your elephant. Down and up, pull, across, down and pull. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Up, across, down and pull. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Up, across, last time, down and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Flip over your elephant. Here you can see the back of your loom. So what we're gonna do next is you are going to, if your yarn is like mine, it's super, super long, you can cut some off, but don't cut it way here. Give yourself like at least a hand, okay? At least a couple inches there when we tie off our loom. If we don't tie it off like we did at the beginning, the yarn will just pull out and it won't work. So just like how we did for this knot, same thing. Up, around, creating a little fish, tucking the end under. Now instead, I like to grab the end with one hand, and then I like to just kind of strip the yarn and pull it all the way down towards the cardboard while pulling that up. And then that will create a nice, secure, tight knot to my cardboard. Do that 2 more times. Here we go. Up and around. Whoops. It gets a little tricky with some shorter yarn. That's why it's good not to have it too short. I have a little fish. Tail of my fish goes under and through the loop. I start pulling it so it's kind of like a pretzel. I want that knot towards my cardboard. Here I did a little too tight. So I'm going to then hold it firmly in one hand, put my pincher fingers on it and pull it down. And as I'm pulling it down with this hand, I'm pulling it up and securing it. And one last final knot. Here we go. The random tails of your yarn or the ends, those can be tucked under a few of the strands of your loom. That way they will not bother you as you're weaving. And then they're nice and secure as well. If they're extra long, you can tuck them off or cut them off. We are ready to begin weaving. Here we go. Here we go. We are going to begin weaving now on our elephant. And here I have is a basic plastic needle. Now we're going to talk about the parts of the needle. This is the end, obviously, you start with, and then you're going to put the yarn through this part called the eye of the needle. You're going to need some strands of thread. I have my strands. There are about a couple arms worth of length, depending how much of that color you want. The next part of this video, I'll be starting with one color, and then I'll be showing you how to change colors and secure it and finish off your elephant. So here we go. I'm going to start with this color, and I have a strand. It's about 2 arms length long. We'll see where that gets me on my project. We need to start by securing our yarn on the end of our loom. And I'm also going to show you a trick for putting the yarn through the eye of your needle. So I take a little bit of my yarn and I fold it, not in half, but just enough. I then take my fingers to where the loop is of the yarn, and I put my fingers toward the end, kind of pinching it once again with my little crab fingers. And then I am pushing it through the needle and pulling it through with my other hand. You don't have to do this, but it might make it easier for you. Sometimes yarns can get super frayed if we're just kind of pushing it through. This yarn's pretty good, but other yarns, they begin to fray and things like that. So this is just, I always like to do this trick. To me, it's always a little faster. Alrighty. Once you have your yarn through your needle, you don't need the ends to match up. You can leave one longer than the other. Getting back to our elephant, now that we're ready, we're going to begin by tucking the needle under the first thread on the bottom side of the right, pulling it through, and then I like to just pull the yarn. So I have the end, one end of my yarn underneath that. We're going to do, again, a basic knot, and kind of like how you tie your shoes, which is totally fine. I just kind of do the little twist and pull down, twist, pull, and do that 3 times, okay? This end is a little shorter than what I would normally recommend, but that will be a-okay. As long as your yarn is secure on this first part of our loom, you're gonna do just fine. Let's begin weaving. So the key to weaving is going under and over the next one, then under, then over. Then what I do is I line up my needle and I see what I did, pull the needle through, then I come back and I pull the yarn. If you just pull the needle, the yarn might just slip through the needle. Here we go. And I just like to get all my yarn lined up. After you pull a thread or a strand of yarn through, push it down towards the bottom of your elephant's tummy. Then you're ready to begin the next row. So here we're going to be coming back. Now the key to weaving is we're always doing the opposite of the previous row. That makes a really nice pattern and it's nice and secure. So here I went over the last strand. I'm going to go under, then over, under, over, and under. Double checking with my needle, pulling the needle through, and then pulling the yarn. Careful not to catch on your elephant's tail. Now, we want to have a nice straight blanket on our elephant. So when you pull your yarn, don't over pull it. Oh no, that is not what we want. It's going to look sloppy and it's going to make your artwork way too tight. So you can always backtrack a little, give a little tug back. Pushing that yarn down towards the elephant's tummy. Here we go again, but this time I'm going to show you some really nice tricks that you can do with maneuvering your hand and weaving. We went under, so this time we're going to start over. Now I'm tilting my needle, and don't be afraid to use your fingers to pull up some of the yarn and make it easier for you. So just the way you maneuver your the needle and use your fingertips is a really good key to weaving. Pulling it all the way through and then pushing it down. Not too tight, remember. Here we go. I'm going to do a few more with you. Under, over, under, over. And then I'm going to go over, under, over, under. Here we go, pushing down. And repeating that process it's a lot of repetition, guys and girls. So here we go, pulling it down. And I'm gonna go through this one final time before I take a break. Here we go. I'm gonna go over, under, check with my needle, pull yarn, and push down. Nice and easy. I'm going to continue on using up the, pretty much almost all of this color yarn, and then I'm going to show you how to change colors. Here we go. See you in a bit. Okay, so here I just completed a couple more rows, and notice, artists, this is key that everything is staying very straight. I'm not over pulling. I could continue on and get probably one more row out of this, but it's always nice to stop a little earlier than you think so you have enough yarn to attach your next one onto. I removed it from my needle, and I'm going to grab my next color strand. It can be any length, remember, depending how much of that color you'd like. And this is how you attach a new strand. First, put the yarn through the eye of your needle. You can do the fold trick I showed you earlier. Here we go. Now, put your needle under the first thread and pull through. This is very similar to how we started at the very beginning. You're then going to tie it on. I like to do it nice and tight. Tie it twice. Here you go. And then you can slide it down towards your previous weaving. Now we have to secure this strand, otherwise it's just gonna be really loose and it might start to just unbundle. So to secure it, we're gonna continue on using our new thread. I like to tie it twice, like you're tying your shoes. 1 and 2. Be very careful, artists, when you're tying that you do not pull. In this case, it would be like the mint colored green. Otherwise, you're gonna have a kink and your weaving will not be straight. Once you attached a new yarn, leave the ends kind of just off to the side. We'll talk about those later. And then you're gonna continue on weaving as you normally have. So previously I went under this yarn. I'm gonna go over, under, over, under, doing the opposite of what I previously weaved. Check my needle, I pull the needle through, then I pull the yarn. Whoop, I caught my mini pom-poms in there. And then just making it nice and snug, pushing down. We're gonna repeat the weaving process just as we did in the section before. Real simple. Under, over, and under. Pull needle, pull yarn, checking, making sure I'm not over pulling and being too tight. And finally pushing it down towards the end of our elephant's tummy. Here we go again. I'll do a few rows with you in the video and then I'll be changing more colors and continuing on. So here I just added some more colors and we're getting towards the end of our weaving. We can keep scrunching down, but you're gonna hit a point where it might get a little more tricky. So I'm going to finish up maybe one last row here, and then I'm gonna show you how to take it off. Here we go. Now, to be sure you have enough on your elephant, what you're gonna do, you can kind of spread out the weaving again, maybe push them more up towards the top back of your elephant, because if you want, you can add pom-poms to the bottom to really finish off that piece. I'll be doing that a little later. You'll know you have enough yarn when you can't really see through it and see the vertical yarn on it. So let's finish off our elephant. Here we go. I have the end of my yarn where I just finished. It is right here at the top. You're going to carefully tuck it, put your thumb on it, and then pull it down and through the little snip of the cardboard. Pull it through so it's just nice and snug. Flip your elephant over. Now remember all those knots we went through? We did one, that was super handy. I'm gonna remove my needle and my yarn's gonna come around and make like a fish. With the end of my yarn, I'm going to go under and push the knot towards my cardboard. Doing that 2 more times. Around, under the loop, and then through the loop. And then I like to just use my fingers to really push it down and hold it as we get to the cardboard. One last time. Now, before you go and cut that off, give yourself, the needle would be really easy for this step. Put the yarn back on the needle, and just like how we did in the very beginning, tuck it under the back threads and then pull it through. Then cut it off at a point where they're all tucked under. That way you won't have this end flopping in the back, and it will be neatly secured under the back of your elephant. Flip over. Speaking of ends, let's talk about all of these. You just don't want to chop them off. What you're going to want to do is, again, this needle is more handy than you know. Start with your fingers, and we're gonna push them underneath the blanket of your elephant. I like to just use my fingers to get them started, and then I use the eye end of the needle, and then I just start to push them through. If you have ends at both directions like I do, this is how you can do it. Start with one, and then pull them through, just like that. Maybe pull them down so they're separate from your top ones, and then cut them off. Again, they're tucked under and then they're more secure. If you just cut them off here, you'll have those bumpy ends sticking out. Let's do it with the other side, using my fingers, kind of shoving them underneath. Then taking the eye end and pushing them to the other side. If the other ones start to come out, you can always just kind of push them back. Here we go. Same with this last one. This is kind of an example of what it would look like if it's too short and hard to push. But I'm gonna do my best to kind of tuck it underneath. There we go. This is a great way to clean up your work. What we're gonna do next is you can get that glue bottle that you used in the very beginning when attaching your cardboard. And if you want to add pom-poms, kind of push all your weaving up towards the top and apply a line of glue along the bottom of your elephant's tummy. It can be a little more thicker. There you go. And then I like to have it just a little more farther than my weaving. We are now going to apply some pom-poms, so you can arrange your pom-poms in an order how you may like them. Here we go. I'm gonna put mine just like that. So I like to always put one on the outside of the threads, in between each thread, just like so. Now this glue will really keep these pom-poms down. There we go. We're just lining them up. I'm using 7 pom-poms. That seems to be the lucky number. So then I just like to take my fingers and just press them all at once one more time so they're nice and firm. Overall, we created a really nice color scheme to our piece. We used that element of line and design to create a really good characteristic of our artwork. And then you also learned how to make a good weave loom and to weave and change colors. Great work today, artists.